Hey everyone. So you're gonna have to bear with me. This isn't the talk that I normally give, and I'm more new to being a Swifty than my wife is. But after what has been a 1 year long journey, last year at ECC in Paris, my wife had been messaging me, or then fiance, about how we needed to go to the Taylor Swift concert, and we had looked at tickets in the United States, and bleacher seats were for $2,000 and $3,000. And so the agreement that I made with her was that if you can find tickets anywhere in the world at face value at retail, we can go to the show. And so we were looking at Japan, we were looking at Argentina, and all of these things. And at the time, I was like, I really don't want to go to this. I'm a Taylor Swift hater. This makes no sense. Why are we going to fly to a different country to watch an artist? But I was like, this is the deal I've made. She ended up messaging me while I was at ECC last year about how this concert and the year that it took to do it. But as I went through it, and especially as I was at the show, I kept looking at there's so much that Web3, particularly the degen side, perhaps not the people that are in this room, but the degen side of this space could really learn from actually taking a look at the kind of community that she's been building, which is like going on 2 decades as opposed to hyper financialization and really having mercenaries as when we think like airdrops are about building communities. And so, yeah, like I said, this started about a year ago where we ended up being able to get access to tickets to be able to go to this show. My wife has been a huge fan since like 2007 or 2008 whenever Taylor first started putting out music. And I really didn't get it at first. I think part of it's just being a dude, part of it was just being closed-minded to it. But as we got to it, I actually got into it. I mean, this is I had to dress for my era. You're supposed to like, so like it's basically like a best hits album like tour. I mean, so like she's put out so many albums over the years, and so she put together this tour that's like a best hits of music for like 16 or 17 years. She performed for 4 hours straight. Uh, Everyone who went there ended up getting dressed in like their favorite album. And so when I was listening, she was like, "Well, you have to pick an era," and I didn't really get it. And then she explained like you have to you listen to the albums, and then based on which one is your era, you dress as that to like go to the show. And even just that was sort of interesting to me because it made me curious. Like, okay, cool. I actually have to go listen to the music. And so as I started going through it, this was the album that came up, which was years back. There had been some big controversy with the Kardashian family and Kanye when they released some snippets of audio of her saying, "You could release this song about me," and then something happened and the entire internet turned against her for the first time in her career. And so she ended up taking time off from the internet completely. And when she came back with this album, it was the most like fuck you music that I've been able to find. It was just like hard beats, actual bass, and the lyrics were just very like, I don't give a fuck. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like, this is going to be my era where she is wearing this like completely pink sequin dress, which is the Lovers album. And so just that like was the initial stages of it. And I didn't get the bracelets either. But like the bracelets was like picking your favorite albums and songs. My wife actually for weeks was making bracelets. She ordered these beads and for weeks and weeks was literally sitting at home spending hours making these bracelets. And so this is how I went from being absolutely a hater to really learning to like appreciate just how amazing Taylor Swift is in the aspects of community building more than anything else. Like I decided to go fully all in. You can't actually see it, but I even had like a glitter heart made on my face over here. Like I put the bracelets on. I like fully got into it. Like it was like if I'm gonna go, you might as well actually do it. And in the process ended up learning a lot and really being able to start to appreciate like exactly what it is that she's been able to build. Hold on. Once this loads, just to give you guys like a little bit of a oh no, audio is not going to work on the So, let's see. So in this process, I ended up learning like what was it actually that my wife was able to do to get access to these tickets, and that was where I was blown away even more. She ended up showing me Discords that she was part of. This is a Discord that has every aspect of Taylor Swift's life in it. So when there's news that comes out, the news is there. When new music drops, there's discussion about the music. When there's any merchandise, her merch is actually like really impossible to get. So the moment that merch links drop, they've set up bots that allow you to know to go to here to be able to like try to buy it right away. Anytime a new show ends up being announced, they end up putting it here. Like it was an exhaustive level of information that like a community has come together and crowdsourced and open sourced over time. And how she was finding out about which shows were actually even available were these fans had gone and put together a Google Sheet, and this Google Sheet had information to every single show that she was going to be doing and had an amazing amount of information about each one of them, including the links that you needed to be able to go to actually get these tickets. The show that we went to was her 100th show. It was at Liverpool's Anfield Stadium, which is a very, very famous football team who regularly sells out the arena. But despite that, this was actually the first time, it was the most people in Anfield ever, the way that they had set it up. She's been doing this concert since 2022. And she said by the end of the year, when the concert actually finishes, she'll have done 150 shows. And so to think, and she's not selling out Madison Square Garden for 18,000 people a night. This woman has been, for years now, selling out 60 and 80,000 person arenas, which just like blew my mind as a separate thing. And to think about how much money she's made is even like just another part of this. But when I started looking into just how much information these Swifties were putting together for people, and it had nothing to do with who was going to make money on what. It's just about being able to like share that love, joy, and excitement about their fandom. The bracelet thing, I think, was one of the most interesting aspects to me. Was at first I didn't really get why my wife was sitting there spending weeks making these bracelets. But when we got to the show, and as much as I'm a fan now, I was still more of an outside observer. One of her best friends came with us. She was similarly excited. Once we got to Liverpool, the entire city had these like things set up for like what they called Taylor Town. And so it was like a scavenger hunt where people were going around the city to take photos with the different displays that had been set up. And when we got to the show, they had a bunch of them. And I saw women that were from like 5 and 6 years old to like women well into their 50s who were all running up to each other super excitedly, having conversations about their outfits, why they loved them, what it was that made them pick this, how hard it was to get things, because I think Taylor Swift actually probably deserves like a percentage of revenues from all sequins sold in the last few years, because like it was literally hard for us to find dresses with sequins the way my wife had been looking for. And seeing all of the women just talk to each other about which song they loved and the stories behind those songs and why those songs meant something to them and the albums with it, and then going and like trading bracelets with each other. These were like complete strangers going up to each other. I was like standing in line for a cheeseburger, and like one young girl walked up to another young girl, and I watched this entire interaction of like this conversation. But then I saw the same thing with women who are older, and it was just something where I was like, they have created this amazing attachment amongst each other. And again, nothing about it had to do with financialization. It wasn't that my Bored Ape is worth 100 ETH and that's why I care so much about this community. So much of it was about inclusivity as opposed to exclusivity. That was one of the things that I really appreciated. And even within it, what was funny was watching them, because we watched a show that was on June 13th. And apparently everything that Taylor Swift does, there's like Easter eggs in her content. And so there were rumors that Ed Sheeran was going to come out. There were rumors that Paul McCartney was going to come out because we were in Liverpool and that's where the Beatles are from. And 13 has this like significance in Taylor Swift fandom. And it was just interesting to watch, like the entirety of the process, like continually just being like, okay, where are they coming up with these, having like the conversations they were all having amongst each other. She does specific secret like songs for each show. And one of the ones she ended up picking was her personalizing to Liverpool, that the last time she was in Liverpool was when she shot a music video. And so she was going to only sing that song at this place, and it didn't make sense for others. And so as I sat and thought about it, it was just like, this has nothing to do with money. And community building in Web3 so often has to do with financial incentives. Like it's airdrop hunting, and literally the word hunting is in there. Like we've created mercenaries for airdrops. The NFT communities from a few years ago were all about just trying to figure out which community is going to be able to make you the most money, or which one allows you to have a certain level of status and prestige because you have the most expensive one, and whether you sell it or because you just held it, was something that just like, it bothers me about this space so much. And the genuineness and organic love all of these fans had for each other, being able to watch that, I just kept thinking like, what if we were actually building things that would incorporate this? And I know everyone says, we're still early, but the reality is crypto's been around since like 2008 at this point. There's been countless billions of dollars invested in this industry. There's been, 15 plus years of time for people to actually do things. And we haven't built anything that's a fraction of what the love that this stuff actually creates. Like the coordination that I got to see, we always talk about, crypto is coordination games. It's coordination games. And like the coordination games that we played here, like I've never been to Liverpool in my life, but the idea that I had been put in a position where it was like, okay, we're going to fly to a completely different country. We're going to meet a bunch of people we've never met, and we're going to exchange all these stories and learn all this. And it's all being done through like Google Sheets and Discord and all of the same tools, honestly, that people in Web3 use. Like she was on all of these different things. She ended up finding out exactly which one she'd get because there was a TikTok that came out, and she was one of the first to get it in these, like, they have TikTok accounts for this too. And it said, if you join the Liverpool fan club, then there's going to be a set of exclusive tickets that you can get access to. And so she ended up signing up for like $50 to the Liverpool fan club, ended up buying tickets, and then she helped other people buy tickets too. So we met up with people that she just knew through the internet, who she had helped get tickets for after this TikTok hack worked for her. And like the ownership, the belonging, like the individuality of how everyone was dressed up or how I'm dressed up, like it made everything so much more fun. Her music, even the more I listened to it, like I know she gets clowned a lot for her music, but if you actually take a look at it, a lot of it is about her talking about vulnerabilities of like not being able to be perfect and messing up at relationships and messing up at all of these things. And it really gave me an appreciation for the art of storytelling that she's been doing for years since she released her music, is what really has these fans gravitating to it. It was all of them having personal stories that allowed them to connect with certain songs and certain albums because they were talking about times in their lives that this music helped them through. And so it's, when I look at Web3, and again, I know this room isn't this group, but just like, what Bored Ape Yacht Club was all about when it was actually cool a few years ago, it was all about exclusivity, the entirety of it. And the other one is D-Gods. They were one of the most popular NFT community on Solana for some time. And it was the most crypto bro thing ever. They would go to their parties, they would fill sneakers with alcohol, and then they would drink alcohol from the sneakers. And these weren't brand new sneakers. These were like shoes that people were wearing. Yeah, I know. The crypto bro culture is heinous in this space. And just like 24/7 shilling, like I kept looking and just looking at the aspect of there was nothing in this that had to do with being able to personally monetize. It was all about spreading love, joy, and like that fandom. And I don't know exactly what it looks like for us, but I keep thinking like, what is it that we're going to be able to do and in our space that will allow us to do something like that. And so as I looked at it, like she didn't do this overnight. Like it took her 15 plus years to actually get to this point. And how engaged she is as an artist, I was looking at examples of when people post on Twitter and on Instagram about her, she finds those posts. She actually is looking, and she ends up, like, one of my wife's friends was invited to a Taylor Swift listening party based on an Instagram post she had made, and Taylor Swift literally reached out and invited her to this listening party. And so, like, to be someone who's as big as Taylor Swift is and to still be engaging with your fans in that way is honestly crazy to me. And even earlier, like, Tumblr, which is a long since past, like, social media platform from years ago, my wife was telling me all about how much she used to actually use the platform and engage with her fans, which was earlier in her career while she was already still famous. But to know that she had her finger on the pulse of the culture in a way that she was actually doing this was something I really appreciated. And I think she's probably built more than $1 billion empire at this point. I think when she first started this tour, I remember telling my wife her plan was going to be to have the highest generating revenue tour of all time, and she broke that a long time ago. And so it's not that she hasn't been able to make money on this. Like, you know, the GDP of cities and countries are going up when she decides to tour there. And so it's not like completely devoid of the idea of money. And so it completely has that. And she's been very intentional over a really long period of time at cultivating and building this community. And even when I look at it, you know, when I look at our space, it's like so quick to be like, let's make the Bored Ape Yacht Club cheeseburger place. This woman has been building community and brand for so many years, and like she doesn't have any products out yet. And so I can only imagine when she actually picks authentically and organically what it is that she wants to do when it comes to products, what she's going to be able to accomplish the way that Rihanna has with her Fenty line. And so, yeah, this was something like, again, I did not expect to ever be giving a talk about. And when I like put these slides together, which actually the reason it looks so good is because my wife helped me with it. I was like, I have no idea how to make this look pretty. I was like, I don't even know how I'm supposed to practice for this because it's not like giving a normal talk. But ever since, I continue now to go and actually try to learn more from what she's done to see how I can incorporate it into the work that I'm doing. So thank you.